Chapter 13 is main frame of market failure issue, and we are going to discuss the market failure. The first big issue was previously we discussed the monopoly, but in this chapter we talk about externality, about market failure issue here. Okay, so what is externalities? What's the externalities? You can see there are first externality has negative externality. Externality basically existing out of the transactions between buyers and sellers. So buyers pay costs for sellers to buy a product, an item, a good. But is that enough cost? Actually, we didn't consider outsider out of this transaction, particularly the transaction going on between buyers and sellers, but there are bystanders, third parties. So what if this transaction gives harm for innocent bystanders? That's what we call a negative externality. So negative externality is harm. You can think as a negative, imposes on cost on innocent bystanders. So let's think about Bob in your family. Just assume that. He smokes. He purchased smokes from a store. So the transaction was over because Bob pays the cost for the cigarette at the store, and store owner got this payment. So buyers and sellers transaction is over. But question is, this payment, the cost, is enough for your entire family? Actually not. The health issues existing, but that cost was not paid. So how can we distinguish the cost here? First of all, Bob pays private cost for the cigarette. So private cost, you can think about it. However, that innocent bystanders in your family, all your family not smoking, didn't actually get benefit, but by smoking you have third-party issues health-wise. So that's what we call social cost. So private cost was paid at the supply side. Seller's cost, your Bob already paid it. But social cost was not enough. In other words, that external cost was not actually paid here. External cost was not paid. So how can we set it up, this cost relationship here? The first, marginal social cost, that's a supply curve, is related with marginal private cost, which means Bob purchased the cigarette, and plus the third party health external cost should be added. So marginal social cost is marginal private cost plus external cost. Okay, let's make some examples here. There is a paper company producing paper. So in that case, private cost for the paper company is cutting tree cost. So the company pays for the cutting trees. But is that enough for the community? Actually not. The community is in danger of air pollution and water pollution by this cutting trees and producing paper. In order to produce paper, they have to use lots of chemicals. Does it pay? So that external cost is existing, not only this private cost. Okay, let's think about dogs. What if there's really loud barking dog in your neighborhood all the time? If that's the case, the private cost is the owner feeding dogs after purchasing it, feeding dogs and nurturing dogs and all kinds of cost. That's private cost for the owner of the dog. But the owner didn't think about the cost in your neighborhood. So the neighbor experiencing lots of noises, unpleasant issues, but this cost was not paid. That's what we call neighbor's happiness as an external cost. Then what is a positive externality? Positive externality is somewhat not harm, somewhat gain for third party. So in this case, the third party will some benefit, even though it's not the person is not buyer or seller. So what kind of thing is that? So we'll thinking about it. So if you think about someone, you got flu vaccine in your family only, which means you get some private benefit as a flu vaccine after getting the vaccine. And also, you are not going to get rarely be sick, which means your family will get some benefit as well. That's what we call social benefit. And this side is generally demand side because you are a buyer. The social cost has a full benefit entire family or community. So we can think about the relationship, the benefit as marginal social benefit curve is MSB. From now on, I'm going to use that initial MSB is marginal private benefit plus external benefit is considered. So we discussed that vaccine, and when you get a vaccine as a private vaccine, so you are not going to get sick. So not sick. What about external benefit? External benefit is it's not contagious population, which means you and your family get more less sick possibility. How about education? One person get educated or trained, private benefit is the person will get higher income after finishing higher education. Then what is external benefit for the society and community as a third party? In other words, they are going to get more productive population they have. In other words, the technology and the production will be more efficient in that production, and entire community will get benefit out of it. That's external benefit. So let's think about the externality in terms of the issues with the graphing. So you can see some visually what is negative externality and what is a positive externality. So negative externality is produced too much by the market. So cigarette, we can think about that gives a harm for the third parties. Basically, that's too much produced. So let's see how that happened. So in terms of that, demand or the marginal social benefit is the same in the market, but marginal private benefit is paid in the market. In other words, the buyer of cigarette purchased that paying produce the market production of quantity and also pay the market price. So that's happening in the market. However, like I said, the cigarette is produced too much. In other words, actually the production should be reduced. Therefore, supply curve shifted to the left. So that's what generally what should be for the community and society. In other words, that marginal social cost should be included in terms of the supply. Therefore, that equilibrium should be different from what actually market is producing. Therefore, the quantity and price should be this way. So that's what's supposed to be, but the market didn't produce that equilibrium. Okay, what is happening here is we have gap of the production amount, which means the gap between market quantity or that our hypothetical social optimal quantity is not the same. The gap we call overproduction. So that cigarette has been produced overly. Okay, what about positive one? Let's think about vaccine. So in terms of that, demand marginal private benefit to get vaccination and marginal social cost, they are produced under this market system. However, the positive externality is not produced enough, should be produced more. So too little produced, in other words, in reality, that should be more demanded because we have a more population. So this market price and market quantity should be more increased in terms of the quantity of market is increasing to the right. So demand, marginal social benefit is increasing, which means a new equilibrium should be existing there. Therefore, quantity is produced more than what market is produced, the vaccine-wise, and also the price is slightly higher because the demand increases. So this graph shows you positive externality, which means the gap between this quantity, socially optimal quantity, and the market quantity has underproduction issues. We are thinking about positive externality. Okay, so we discussed that externality causes market failures because supply and demand curves do not fully reflect the cost and benefit. So we discussed the negative externality as overproduction. Positive externality has underproduction issues. Also, we are discussing a bit later, we also experiencing deadweight loss because the government intervenes in this case. So let's talk about deadweight loss a little bit later. And externalities exist when property rights. So property rights are not clearly defined. So basically what economists are thinking about externalities in order to resolve this issue is we need to make clear property rights for that market situation. The market can handle it, resolve the issues with more private basis without government intervention. And we'll discuss more detail a bit later.